In this video, I'm going to be working through all the questions from 2025 Leaving Cert Ordinary Level Maths Paper 1. It's going to be a long video. I don't want to just give you the solutions. I'm trying to teach you how to do the questions, and that takes time. Remember, we're not in the classroom, we're on YouTube, so take advantage of all their tools. Use the chapters in the timeline to jump to the question you're interested in, and pause and rewatch the more difficult parts of a question. You can even change the speed you watch the video at. Okay, let's start off with question 1. Question 1, as is often the case, is a bit hard to teach because the questions aren't very standard. It's not do it this way every time. It's more of a problem solving question. So let's just jump in and I'll try and explain what I'm thinking as I do it. So in A part 1, they tell us this person, Sean, is buying something, a power bank and a USB cord. One power bank costs 30 euro. 30 euro. And that's before VAT, which is 23%, is added. Find the cost of the power bank after the VAT is added. Now this is done automatically in a shop, so don't usually do this, but if you're ever buying anything not as standard in a shop, certainly anything in business, if you hire someone to do something, they might give you the price before VAT. So in life it can be useful to think about this. So it's 30 euro before, how much is it after? How do we get 23% of something? That's really the question. I'll do a couple of different ways. First way is just to multiply by 25%. 25% is the same as writing 0.25. Multiply 30 by that and we get 6.9. That's how much is going to be added. Add that on to 30, we would get 36.9. That's one way to answer the question. That's perfectly okay. A slightly quicker way would be, instead of finding 25%, finding 125%. That's 1.25. Multiply that by 30 and we would get straight to the answer of 36.9. And then one last way I would suggest you could do it is 30 euro is the same as 100%. As 100%. We are looking for 123%. That's with the value added tax on. This is a bit of a longer way to do it, but it's a good way to help you think about percentages. So how do you get from 100 to 123? I always do it by going to 1 first. It's easy to get to 1. Divide by itself, you get to 1. So divide this by 100, you get to 1. Well, I better do the same over here. 30 divided by 100 is 0.3. How do you get from 1 to 123? Multiply by 123. That's 0.3 multiplied by 123. And this is, once again, 36.9. There's a few ways to think of doing part 1. In part 2, they tell us Sean is going to buy a different power bank that costs 26 euro and a USB cable that costs 9 euro. And but he sees a special offer for the two of them together for 28 euro. So what percentage discount is that special offer? Okay, buy them separately. First thing you want to do is 26 plus 9, that's 35. That's how much it would cost. The special offer he's being offered is at 28. So what they're asking you is, what kind of discount is he getting? Again, I'll do this a few different ways again. The first way I'll do it is, well, how much of a discount is he getting? That'd be a useful number. That'd be 35 minus 28. That's 7 euro. He's getting a 7 euro discount. So how do we get it? A lot of students, I think, would try and take 7 divided by one of these. So the first thing to know is, well, which one do we divide it by? Divided by 28 or by 35? It's a discount on the original price. So it'd be 35 we divide it by. So 7 divided by 35, that comes out at 0.2, which is the same as 20%. So that's the answer, that's the discount. Other ways you could have done that would be just going direct, 28 divided by 35. That would get you 0.8, which is 80%. If you just think about this, the new price is 80%, the old price is 100. What's the discount? The discount is 20%. And then you could also do it something like this, a slow way, which I'm not going to bore you with right now. If you are finding my videos useful and would like to help the channel out, on top of liking and subscribing, probably the best thing you could do is to tell other people doing the exam about my channel. Maybe you could share this video in a class WhatsApp group. Then if you feel I've really deserved it and you would like to buy me a coffee, you could become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. You should find links to that in the description below. I probably spoke too soon at the start, saying the first two questions were sort of standard, I guess. You would see percentage questions like that quite often. Part B, this is more of the problem solving question I was alluding to. So in part B, they tell us about two people who can clean windows. One of those people can clean a window in 9 minutes, the other can do it in 12 minutes. And they ask you, what do they ask you? Oh, okay, they tell you they both start to clean windows and they both finish a window at the same time. When is the first time that will happen? It's a weird, complicated question, a good problem solving question. Here's how I thought about it. I thought about the first person who could do it every 9 minutes. So they start off at 0. And after 9 minutes, they clean a window. After 18 minutes, they finish a window. After 27 minutes, they finish a window. 36, 45, 52, and so on. That's, yeah, I think I have these. No, 52 is wrong. 54, there we go. Something in the back of my head was like, you've made a mistake there. So that's the first person. That's how often they're cleaning windows. The second person, again, starts at 0. And they have after 12 minutes they do a window, 24 minutes, 36 minutes, 48 minutes, 60 minutes they finish a window. So when did they finish a window at the same time? And we can hopefully see it there. 36 is the common number here. And if we continue this on, we'd find a 72 here. And we'd also, the next number here would be a 72. They'd also finish again there. And if we continue on, I guess the next one would be 3 times this, which would be a 108, I believe. They both share 108 as well. That's how I was thinking of the question. So the answer to part 1 would simply be 36 minutes. After 36 minutes, they would finish a window at the same time. In part 2, then, we want to figure out how long it takes both of them to clean a building with 35 windows. Again, a great problem solving question because there's not some standard way to do this. You're going to have to think about solving this question. So that's a bit of advice then for your own Leaving Cert. If question 1 goes difficult for you, if it's a weird question like this, don't worry too much. There's going to be a lot more standard questions coming on. In fact, a lot of students should probably skip question 1 until later in the exam. Okay, so how did I do this question? There's 35 windows. I didn't start there. What I thought about was how long it takes them. I thought about when they finish together. This 36, that's why they gave you that clue. I thought to myself, after 36 minutes, how many windows had they cleaned? So let's see. The first person, 1, 2, 3, 4. They did 4 windows. 1, 2, 3. They did 3 windows. 7 windows. 7 windows got cleaned in 36 minutes. Again, I'll put a little arrow thing here that I like to use. So what we really just need to find is how long does it take to clean 35 windows. Need to change this 7 into a 35. You could do that by changing it to a 1 first and then a 35 like I sort of did earlier, or you could just go direct. 7 multiplied by 5 will get to 35. So 36 multiplied by 5 would be how long it takes them to clean it. So what is 36 multiplied by 5 is 150 plus another 30 is 180 minutes, and that's the answer to that question. Of course, you could also write this in hours. That's 3 hours. And that's it for question 1. If you have any follow-up questions for me, put a question in the comments. Do me a favor though and put a timestamp in so I can know where in the video you're asking a question about. Thanks for watching and have a great day. In question 2, we're dealing with complex numbers. I would say students are most terrified by complex numbers, but you really shouldn't be, because they ask the same 4 or 5 different questions every year. So you should be able to get full marks on this question every year. It doesn't change all that much. With that in mind, part A, they give you 3 different complex numbers here, and they give you an argon diagram. They nearly always will give you an argon diagram. They want you to put these numbers on the diagram, or sometimes they want you to take the numbers from the diagram. In this case, we're drawing them in. They've already done Z1 for you. So let's say -1 real numbers and +2 imaginary numbers. That's this is the real axis, and this is the imaginary axis here. So we just go -1 on the real axis, that's here, and +2 on the imaginary axis. All that meets here. They've done that for us. We do that for the next two. +2 real, that's 1, 2. I don't have the numbers in, save myself time. And +3 on the imaginary. So it's 2, 3. That meets over here. There's Z2. And Z3 is 4 minus I. That goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and minus somewhere down around here. That's Z3. That's it for A part 1. Another staple is part 2, where they ask you to get the modulus. So we have a formula for that. Let me write Z1 again as -1 plus 2i. So we have a formula for this. It's just the to A and B, I think usually we write it as, it's just the first number here, -1 squared, plus the number in front of the I here, that's a 2 squared, and the square root of that. That's it. I'll do this one. -1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 1 plus 4 is 5, square root of 5. That's the answer. If you don't like doing it that way, there is other ways to do it. The modulus, which will become important in the next part, the modulus is just the distance to the center. So that means we can draw a little triangle there. If I draw that triangle again, that's a length 1 here and a length 2. All they're doing is Pythagoras theorem, this length here. And that's 2 squared, and 1 squared. -1 and 1 squared are the same, really. They both are +1 when you square them. So you get a square root of 5 here. So a couple of ways to do that question. In part 3, they tell us there's some new number, Z4, and they want you to make that up. But they tell you the modulus of Z4 is less than the modulus of Z1. Oh, less than. My notes has greater than, so my notes are wrong. So what does this mean? This means, well, what I just did with the triangle here, Z1, the modulus of Z1 is the length to the middle. So saying something is less than that, it means we're going to be closer to the middle. Another way to do that is to draw a circle here. Square root of 5 would be around here. So let me just try and draw it roughly correctly. I know that's a bit bad. If you literally got a compass and put it to Z1 on your paper, you could draw a circle there. What they're really asking for here is a Z4 to be inside the circle. That's it. Any number inside that circle, any imaginary number inside that circle would be an answer for Z4. So I will just say Z4 is equal to, let's see, 1 plus I. That's 1 plus I. I'm going to put Z4 here. Although you could pick lots of other numbers. Just a few examples would be, I guess, 2 plus 0 I. That'd be a bit tricky because would you have to write the 0? They wanted it in the form of A plus BI. Another one would be, say, -2, -2 minus I think would fit. That'd be, let's see, -2 here. It looks, on my drawing, it looks like it fit. I'd be safe. I guess to be really safe, you could say 0 plus 0i would definitely be 1 inside that circle. Anyway, I thought I guess that was a little out of the usual of a type of question here, but I thought that was really clever. I guess that's the difference between getting 100% on this question than getting 80%. If you are finding my videos useful and would like to help the channel out, on top of liking and subscribing, probably the best thing you could do is to tell other people doing the exam about my channel. Maybe you could share this video in a class WhatsApp group. Then if you feel I've really deserved it and you would like to buy me a coffee, you could become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. You should find links to that in the description below. Because part B gets back to being a much more standard type of question. You'll probably deal with a division question in the exam. They give you two complex numbers, u and v, and they basically just want you to divide them. U divided by v. What's that going to look like? We can write 4 minus 6i divided by 1 plus I. So how do we do division? Hopefully you've done 10 or 20 of these questions in study. It's students just know to multiply by the conjugate of the bottom. I'll say a little more though. I will say you can multiply any number by 1. 1,000 multiplied by 1 is still 1,000. Minus 8 multiplied by 1 is still minus 8. So we can multiply any number by 1. I'll also then say to make 1 is easy. It's any number divided by itself. So 8 divided by 8, a million divided by a million, 4 divided by 4. Or in this case, we're going to do 1 minus I divided by 1 minus I. So what we've done here is not done anything. A number divided by itself is 1. 1 multiplied by something doesn't change anything. But the reason we did 1 minus I, the reason we picked the conjugate of the bottom row is what's going to happen in a few moments. So let's just go ahead and multiply this out. 4 by 1, we get 4. 4 by minus I, we get minus 4i. Minus 6i by 1, we get minus 6i. Minus 6i by minus I, two minuses make a plus. 6 times 1 makes a 6, and I by I makes an I squared. On the bottom row, we get 1 by 1 is 1. 1 by minus I is minus I. I by plus 1 is plus I. That's the reason, by the way, they cancel each other. And I by minus I is minus, and then I squared. So the reason we picked that conjugate, the minus in the middle here, was because we knew this would destroy these two i's. And then once we remember, let me write it up here in a little box, as a lot of teachers tend to do. I squared is equal to minus 1. That's a very important thing to remember. Everywhere we see an I squared, we can change that to a minus 1. So this top row becomes 4. Let's see, minus 4i minus another 6 i's is minus 10i. And we'll change this to plus 6 minus 1, or multiplied by minus 1. So that's minus 6 really. And the bottom row is 1 minus minus 1. Clean that up again. We get this as minus 6, 4 minus 6. The top row is minus 2, minus 10. I divided by 2 minuses make a plus. 1 plus 1 is 2. That's nearly your answer. 2 goes into both of these. So our final answer is minus 1 minus 5i. And that's it for all of question 2. If you have any follow-up questions on that, again, the tricky part was probably this modulus less than or greater than. But if you have a question about anything I did there, or if I made any mistakes, let me know in the comments below. Do me a favor though and put in a timestamp just so I know where you're talking about. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Question 3, part A, starts us off with two different offers in a shop for protein bars, and they basically ask us which is the better offer per bar. So this one you get 3 bars for the price of 2, where that price of a single bar was $3.30. So $3.30 for 1 bar. So really this offer could be rewrote as 3 for $6.60. That's how much that'd be, and this is 12 for $29.99. Which is cheaper? I would often say just find out how much 1 bar is in each offer. So divide this by 3, find how much that is, and divide this by 12. That's a perfectly okay way to do it. That would also find out how much 1 bar is. But they didn't ask how much 1 bar, so you don't have to do that. Really you just want to get these to be the same. And this is a helpful hint for real life. I'm really cheap. When I'm in a shop, I'm always multiplying these numbers in my head to go, oh, which deal's better? So the best way is just to find them, get them both to an equal number. So if you divide this one by 4, you'll get that to 3. And you'll find out how much 3 costs this way. Or if you multiply this one by 4, you'll get this to 12. And find how much it is. That's what I'll do. I'll multiply this one by 4. It's often easier to multiply than divide in your head. So if we multiply the left by 4, we get 12. Multiply the right by 4, we get, let's check my notes here, 26.40. So you get 12 bars for 26.40, or you'd get 12 bars for €30. The better offer by a long way is offer A, because especially if you only want 3 bars or 6 or 9. This rarely happens in real life. In real life, the more you buy, the cheaper it often gets. But there is often a little mistake like this. And in a maths exam, you can't assume anything. You better do the maths out and check. If you are finding my videos useful and would like to help the channel out, on top of liking and subscribing, probably the best thing you could do is to tell other people doing the exam about my channel. Maybe you could share this video in a class WhatsApp group. Then if you feel I've really deserved it and you would like to buy me a coffee, you could become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. You should find links to that in the description below. In part B, we have an inequality question. This should be the same as the examples you've done in your book many times over. I would hope you've done questions like this 50 or 100 times at this point. What am I going to do? I'm going to move all the x's to one side, all the real numbers to the other side. So let's see, get everyone on the left, although in this case it might be easier to get everyone on the right, all the x's that is, but I'll just do it the way I would have done it before realising. I'm going to move all the x's to the left. So that's 2x stays there. This 6x becomes a minus 6x. We'll leave the inequality here. The minus 8 will stay where it is. It's not 8, it's minus 8. And this 4, that plus 4 becomes a minus 4 when it comes over. Okay, clean this up. 2x minus 6x is minus 4x. Bigger than or equal to minus 8 minus another 4 is minus 12. Okay, at this point, if it was an equals here, what I would do is I would divide both sides by the number in front of the x. So I would get x divided by minus 4 becomes just x, and minus 12 divided by minus 4. Then I would have x, and minus 12 divided by minus 4 is 3. Problem is here, and it's you would lose a few marks for, when we divide by or multiply by a minus number, multiply and divide are very similar. When we divide or multiply by a minus number, we got to change this symbol. We got to change the direction of it. Instead of greater than, it's less than. Instead of greater than, it's less than. That's the final answer. X is less than or equal to 3. If we had have gone the different direction at the start, moved the 2 over this side, we would have got a 4x, plus 4x. So we would never have divided by a minus, but the x would have been on the less than side. It'd be on the pointy side, just like it is here. So we would have got the same answer but we wouldn't have had to change direction. We would have just ended up with we would have ended with 3 is bigger than x. That's the same. It's identical. Right, in C part 1, this is an interesting one because everyone's answer is going to be different. They ask you to make up some answers for this, just once they are possible answers. Make up any answer for K and T once this works out. I will make up 2 different answers and do the question twice, the next part as well, just to hopefully help a lot of you out. A hint though, if they ever ask you to make up a number, I would suggest using 0 or 1. Now you can't use 0 in this case. 0 multiplied by something else is 0. So 0 won't work here. But 1 does, so I would just say K is equal to 1. If K is 1, what's T? What multiplied by 1 makes 12? T must be 12. Of course you can make up lots of other numbers, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and I'll go ahead and use 3 and 4 as well, just in case. I'd say a lot of students might have used this. Either of these is correct answer for part 1. For part 2, they give us this equation here and they tell us to use the answers we had from part 1 to figure out what B is. Now the hint, a spoiler I'm going to give you is you should all get different answers for B if you use different numbers at the start. Although they will be mostly similar. There's only a few options. So I'm going to use my first answer here. K is 1 and T is 12. So the secret here is to, well, first of all, let's put it in. K is 1 and T as 12. What they want you to do is they want you to multiply this out so it looks like this side. And then we can just read what b is. So let's multiply this out. We get x by x is x squared. X by 12 is 12x. 1 by x is x. And 1 by 12 is 12. We clean this up. The x squares, there's only one of them. 12x plus x is 13x. And 12 is on its own. Everyone, you'll get 12 no matter what numbers you use here. And you'll get x squared. This number will change. And in this case, my answer would be b is 13. Let me just do that one more time with a different number. And you could do it with your own number, hopefully. X plus 3 could have been one I used. And x plus 4. Once again, multiply this out. I'd get an x squared. I'd get a 12. But in the middle, I would get 3x plus 4x. Hopefully we're teaching you a bit about factorization at the same time in this question. So in the middle here, we'd actually get a 7x. b would be 7 if I use these numbers. And whatever numbers you used, if you add them together, that's what b would be. 1 plus 12 is 13. 3 plus 4 is 7. You could have used minus 1 and minus 12, and the middle number would be minus 13. You could have used, let's see, minus 2 and minus 6. Middle number would have been minus 8, and lots of different combinations there. And that's it for question 3. If you have any questions about anything I did there, or if you've seen any mistakes I made, or you just want to say hello, can you do it in the comments below? Do me a favor though, if it is about this question, put a timestamp in just to help me know what you're talking about. Often I'm asked questions years after I've done this question, and it's really difficult for me to know what you're talking about unless you tell me a time in the video and explain your question a lot. Anyway, thank you for watching and have a great day. Question 4 starts off with a fairly standard equation they want you to solve for a. So the first thing we do is we multiply out any brackets we have here. 5 times a is 5a, 5 times minus 3 is minus 15 is equal to 2a plus 7. Next, let's get all the a's on the same side and everything without an a on the other side. So we'll move this 2a over here. That's 5a will stay where it is, and this 2a will become minus 2a. This 7 will stay where it is, and this minus 15 will become plus 15. 5 minus 2a's is 3a is equal 7 plus 15 is 22. Next, let's get rid of this 3. The 3 is multiplying the a, so to get rid of it, we divide both sides. Basically, the 3 moves across, we think of it. The 3 moves across and turns it to divide. 22 divided by 3. A lot of students probably panic at this point, and they don't like getting numbers this. Put this in your calculator, you will get 7.33333. They don't like decimal places, lots of students. Don't panic. They give you a clue that your answer might look like this. At the start of the question, they told you A was an element of OR. That means your answer could be anything. Sometimes they tell you A is an element of Z or N. That means okay, but let's do it in order actually. Let's just say N first. That's a natural number. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It could get big, but it's a whole number. It's nice. It's a positive whole number. Or they could tell you it's a Z. It's the same, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but also could be minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and any whole number basically. And then sometimes they even tell you you don't see it too often anymore, Q. That's a quotient. It could be a factor. This is one of them. Or is everything. Everything is in the or. So don't be surprised if your answer is a little more awkward when you see an or here. If you are finding my videos useful and would like to help the channel out, on top of liking and subscribing, probably the best thing you could do is to tell other people doing the exam about my channel. Maybe you could share this video in a class WhatsApp group. Then if you feel I've really deserved it and you would like to buy me a coffee, you could become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. You should find links to that in the description below. Okay, in part B we have differentiation, something that is genuinely difficult differentiation. But don't worry, in ordinary level it's not too bad. We learn a lot of simple techniques on how to do it. So in this case they gave you fx, they want to find the derivative. So how do we find the derivative of a polynomial? Hopefully you guys remember these steps. We take the number of the power up here, this 3, and we multiply down. So 3 multiplied by x, and then we take 1 away from that 3. We're left with 2 there. And we continue that on. 2 multiplied by minus 3 becomes minus 6, and we take 1 away. That's x to the power of 1. We don't bother writing. If you write a 1 there, you're not going to lose any marks, that's fine. We just don't bother writing it. It's like a shortcut we do. And again, there's another shortcut here. You probably just learn when there's just an x, we get rid of the x. That's fine. What we're actually doing is this invisible 1 up here, we're multiplying that by 4. And we get 4. And then we're taking 1 away. X to the power of 0 is just 1. 1 times 4 is just 4. But however you remember it, that's fine. And the last, a constant. A differentiation is asking you, how much does something move when I change x? When I change x, minus 8 doesn't move, so the derivative of a constant is 0. So we're done. That's the answer to part B. Oh, I'm sorry, no it's not. That's the answer to the first half of part B. They also ask you about a slope of a tangent at a point. So where's the point? 2 minus 4. Okay, so this up here, the original equation, that was a curve. I don't care what it looks like. I'm just going to draw a random curve here, okay? At a certain point on this curve is this, 2 minus 4. We'll say it's right here or something. I don't actually know what it looks like. The slope of the tangent, that's what a derivative finds. A derivative is the slope no matter where you ask me. So at this point, this slope, it's the slope of this line, the tangent. So if you were to draw a flat line against, get a ruler and balance it against this curve, it's the slope of this. So we get that. We get any slope you want simply by putting in the derivative, putting whatever number here you want. You'll get this move along the curve. Like when x is 0, you get something. When x is 1, when x is 2, when x is 3, when x is 4. So what number do we have to put in here? It's just here, 2. They asked us about this point. This is x is 2 and y is minus 4. That deal doesn't matter actually. So they just want you to put 2 in here. And they want you to put 2 in here. That's 3 times 2 times 2. Well here, let me do it slowly. 2 squared minus 6 times 2 plus 4. And we just do this out as carefully as you can. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. Minus 6 times 2 is minus 12 and plus 4. 12 minus 12 cancelled. The answer is 4. So actually my drawing is pretty bad because this is a positive number. That means it goes upwards. So my guess where the point was wrong. So the point's probably somewhere like that, where it goes upwards. In part C, we'll talk more about this idea of slope because the question drew us a new polynomial, a new cubic function here, gx this time. Let me put that in here, gx. And they gave us 3 points on this, P, Q and R. And then they asked us to put those points into one of these categories, into one of these tables, where the derivative is equal 0, the derivative is less than 0, and the derivative is greater than 0. If you're not sure the answer yet, pause it, rewind it back to my previous part to what I talked about what the derivative meant, because that answers it here. When the derivative is less than 0, we will get a slope of a tangent going downwards as we read left to right. When it equals 0, it'll actually be flat, and when it's greater than 0, it'll go up. So the first thing to do here is let's draw in a few tangents. The tangent at P here would look something like that. The tangent at Q would look something like that. By the way, you might ask, how come tangents, they're not meant to touch? The axis goes right through it. It's if we zoom in to this little point in there, it wouldn't be touching it, but then somewhere down here it'll end up touching it. It's just, that's what's happening there. And same with R here, it'll go up like that. So which is which? P should be the first one you jump to. P is equal 0. That we use that one a lot. That helps us find the maximum and the minimum. Q is less than 0. It's going down. That one's there. and or is going up, so that's greater than 0. That's the answer there. And they want us to give a bit more information about this middle one here. Give a reason why you picked that. Simply would be the tangent is flat. That's all you'd have to write. I'll even write that. I don't usually write things out because I'm too lazy. But the tangent is flat would be a perfectly okay answer for the reason. And that's it for question 4. If you have any follow-ups on anything I said there, or you see any mistake I made, please let me know in the comments below. Do me a favour though, and can you put in the timestamp? Helps me answer your question. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Question 5 starts off with a simultaneous equation. I would hope you've done a question like this 50 or 100 times at this stage. They're the same every year. They're guaranteed to come up. In fact, they'll probably come up 2 or 3 times inside other questions. How do we do them? We want to get part of one of the rows to look like the other one. So we want these 2 x's to look like each other, or these 2 y's to look like each other. We actually have a choice. We could multiply the bottom row by 3. That would get these to look a lot like each other. Or we can multiply the top row, which is what I'm going to do, by 2. So let's go ahead and do that. Top row by 2 would be 6x plus 4y equals 22. Bottom row, let's write it again. We haven't changed it. X minus 4y equals minus 1. 4y and 4y. Not only are they similar, they're actually opposite signs, which we also wanted. We could have just taken them away if they weren't, but that makes it a lot easier. If we add these together, a plus 4y plus a minus 4y, they'll cancel each other. So we just add everything together. 6x plus x is 7x. This disappears, that's 0, equals 22 plus a minus 1 is 21. Divide both sides by 7. We get x is equal 21 over 7. X is equal 3. So many students leave this as their final answer and throw away a few marks. They didn't ask you just for x, they wanted y as well. So let's find y for them. You don't have to do the whole thing again. You could match up the x's. I also see students do that. They match up the 2 x's and find what y is. It's perfectly okay. It's just you don't need to do it. Pick either of these equations, whichever one you want, and write it out again. I will take the top one. I will take 3x, but I'm not going to write x because I know x is 3. 3 times 3 plus 2y equals 11. That's 9 plus 2y equals 11. All the y's on one side, all the numbers on the other. All the y's are already on one side. 11 minus 9. 2y is equal 2. Divide both sides by 2. We get y is equal 1. And that's your full marks for part A. Part B is also something you should have done many times over, a quadratic. There's 3 main ways to solve a quadratic. The first way, which I always suggest trying, is to factorize it. Now, you're not going to have any luck factorizing this. It's too difficult to factorize. The next way some students use is completing the square. That's not really on the ordinary level. You can use it if you want, but if you're good enough to complete the square, I suggest you probably should move up to honours level. So the last way, and it's the way we'll solve every quadratic you ever do, so it'll take a little longer, but if you have trouble with quadratics, just solve them using this way. It's the minus b formula. You can memorize it, but it's also in your maths tables. It is x, or whatever the number being squared is, it's x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Use this formula, you'll get the right answer. In this case, you pretty much need it. You could complete the square, but you pretty much need to use this formula. What's a, b and c though? Let's get that right first of all. A is equal to this number in front of the x squared, and that's a 3. B is equal to this number in front of the x. It's not 2. A lot of students write 2. It's minus 2. The minuses do matter. And similarly, c is equal to minus 4. Let's just start filling it in. X is equal to minus b. Minus 2. That's plus 2. Plus or minus the square root of minus 2 squared Minus 2 multiplied by minus 2 is plus 4. Minus 4 times a, which is 3, times minus 4. I'm just filling in a lot of numbers. I'm doing some of the simpler things. And then 2 times 3, which is, I guess, 6. So clean up. You can clean it up as you go, or you can do it a little slower than I was. Let's continue that on over here. We have 2 plus or minus square root of 4. Let's multiply this one out. We have 4 times 3, that's 12. 12 times 4 is 48. And 2 minuses make a plus. Plus 48. Put this in your calculator. If you're not good at doing small numbers like that, or medium numbers, I guess, put it in your calculator, double check, and then divide it by 6. We can clean this up one last time. 2 plus or minus square root of 52 divided by 6. What do you do next? Well, there's 2 answers here. Let me write both of them out. X is equal to 2 plus square root of 52 over 6, and x is equal to 2 minus 52, square root of 52 over 6. There are your 2 answers. You need to put them into your calculator to find the answer correct to 2 decimal places. Oh, that was another clue at the start of the question, that you'd have to use the minus b formula. Correct to 2 decimal places. You're probably not going to be able to factorize something that goes to 2 decimal places. So yeah, put this into your calculator and you get, let's see, you would get 1.53518, that says going on, and this one you would get minus 0.868517, that says going on as well. 2 decimal places. So let me just help you to do 2 decimal places. That's 1.53. This number here is the important one, 3. So is 3, take the next number after it. Is 35 closer to 40 or to 30? That's how I like to think of it. And it's right in the middle. So let's go ahead and take another number. 351, is that closer to 400 or to 300? It's a little closer to 400. So rounding this off, it's 1.54. Same over here, minus 0. The 6 is the important one. Take the number after it. 68, is that closer to 70 or to 60? It's closer to 70, so 8.7. Yeah, that's the answers I got there. If you are finding my videos useful and would like to help the channel out, on top of liking and subscribing, probably the best thing you could do is to tell other people doing the exam about my channel. Maybe you could share this video in a class WhatsApp group. Then if you feel I've really deserved it and you would like to buy me a coffee, you could become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. You should find links to that in the description below. In part C, they give us this graph here of a quadratic and tell us it is drawn to scale and it's symmetrical about some center line. Not this line, it's not. It's clearly not symmetrical around there. So some center line right through the middle here. They don't have to tell us that. That's something we should know already, but it is a hint to answer the rest of the question. So in part 1, they give us these 4 choices for the roots of x. That's the first thing we're sort of trying to answer here. What is a root? The root is where it crosses the x-axis. Oh, my drawing's terrible here for what the correct answer is, but it's roughly correct anyway. Their answer is drawn to scale, mine is not. Okay, so we're looking for these 2 numbers. They gave us 4 different options. They told us it's x is 2 and 8. Can't be, because we know one of the answers is a minus and one is a positive. So that's definitely out. Same for this one. They can't both be minus. One's a minus, one's a positive. That one's out. These 2 though are both minus and positive. There's a mix of both. So which is it? Minus 2 and plus 8. Well, I'll skip to the spoiler. That is the answer, because minus 2 is close to this side and 8 is a long way from it. So this is actually the correct answer, and that's what's wrong with this one. We have a minus number that should be a long way from the center, and a positive number that should be close to it. This is not the case in this one. It's a little more obvious on my drawing that it's far away, but still it should be. Then to finish off for part 2, they ask what's the minimum or what value of x is this function a minimum? First of all, where is the minimum? It's down here, right down the bottom, and it's where this vertical symmetrical line is, and that's a hint they were giving you at the start to answer this part. So what is this point? We now know this one here is -2 and this is 8. If it looks like this is in the middle, that's because it is. They told you this was symmetrical. It folds over here. The middle point here is in between these two. If you knew two numbers that were here as well, it'd be the middle of these two. It'd be the middle of these two as well, any horizontal line. So what's the middle of -2 and 8? I think a lot of students would slip up on that. I would say if you're having trouble doing that, which is fine, I actually have a bit of trouble getting the middle of two numbers like that, just start guessing a few numbers and check how far away it is from each. Or you can do it really slowly, which is how I'm going to do it now, and write them all out. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. What's the middle of these? I guess the proper way to do it would be to find the distance away from 8 and 2. So that'd be 8 minus -2. And the answer there is 10. That's how far away 8 and 2 are. So you want half of that, which is 5. And then you want to get 5 away from either of these. So that's -2 plus 5, which is 3. Or it's 8 minus 5, which is also 3. The middle point here is 3. Sorry, let's do it a slower way. If you had a whole straight line here, what you could do is just cover up the ends and stay going in until you get to the middle, which is 3. How else could you think of that? Well, I think that's the two main ways to think of it. The real simple way and the more maths way there. Okay, that's it for question 5. Okay, if you have any follow-up questions, anything you're unsure about, or you've seen any mistakes I made, please let me know in the comments below. Do me a favour though and tell me which part of the question you're talking about by putting a timestamp in, or just the part of the question. So many students just ask a general question and it's 3 years later and I have no idea what they're talking about. Okay, thank you for watching. Have a great day. In question 6, we're told a girl, Tara, buys a coat for €90 and she then sells the coat. So she buys it, then sells it for 25% profit. How much does she sell it for? All right, let's write some of that information down. €90 is what she buys it for, 25% profit is what she makes. Okay, a few ways to do this question. You could just multiply 90 by 25%, which is the same as 0.25, and that would get you, let me just check my notes on some of these numbers, that'd get you 22.5. That's how much profit she made. So what's the selling price? Well, that's 90 plus 22.5, which is 112.5, 112.5. That's the answer to the question. Another way you could have done that is 90 multiplied by 1.25. That's the original price plus another 25%. And that gets you to the answer immediately, 112.5. And one last way to think about it would be €90 is the same as 100%. She sells it for 125%. How do you get there? I would suggest always going through 1. So turn 100 into a 1. Easy, divide by 100. So you better do that to both sides. 90 divided by 100. Well, that's 0.9. I'll squeeze that in there. Get from 1 to 125. That's easy again. Multiply by 125. Do the same to this side. 0.9 multiplied by 125. And that's equal to the same number here. Or you could have got 25 if you want and found this number, then add it on a bit later. And next in part 2, it's more of a business studies question, or economics maybe question. They tell you this idea of margin. So profit is how much she made. She made 25% profit. But so a lot of people would use the word margin in a similar way, but it's not, and we'll find that out in this question. They tell us the margin is the profit as a percentage of the selling price. So the profit, we needed to find this number. So if you haven't found this in the first part, So maybe you went straight to this number. You need to take this and take 90 away. Either way, you need to get 22.5. That's the profit she made. The selling price of the coat, you need this one, 112.5. They just ask you to get this as a percentage of this. They tell you, they explain to you what margin is, and they ask you, what is the margin? The margin is this as a percentage of this. That's just divide. 22.5 divided by 112.5. You can multiply this by 100 or not if you're a little careful. I'll multiply by 100 now. And put all that into a calculator and we get 20%. 25% profit is the same as about 20% margin. So they're not actually the same. You should go ahead and ask your economics or business studies teacher to explain that. Okay, part B is just a quick little question about scientific notation. Scientific notation is so important if you go on to college and do any science or finance, maybe even engineering a bit as well. Basically because we deal with really big numbers and really small numbers, and we can't be writing out 20 zeros on a page, so we need scientific notation. The two examples they give us here, and I'll add in another one or two just to help you out. 58,000, how to write that in scientific notation. That's the same as we take the first number or the first two or the first three, however much you really want. In this case there's only two important numbers, so I'll take both of them, 5.8, and we want a number between 1 and 10. That's just the standard. It's called the standard form as well as scientific form. 5.8 multiplied by 10 to the power of something. So this number has a decimal all the way at the end. Every number does. 0.0, you could add 0.0 into anything. What we've done is move the decimal all the way up. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've moved it 4 times. So that's where we get that number. That's the answer for 58,000. The other example is 0.036. Again, the important numbers are 3.6 times 10 to the power of something. Where have I moved the decimal this time? 1, 2. I've moved it to the right, so we're going to get a minus number up there. I'll give another example to help you out, because both those numbers were quite small. Let's take an actual big number. This is how much I make on YouTube every year. What is that? That's 84 billion or maybe trillion? No, billion. Yeah, I think that's roughly what I earn. I better check my numbers. If you had a really big number like that, how would you write that? That's the same as 8.4, or you could write 8.437 if you want. It's quite common just to round it off to 1 decimal or 2 decimal places. So 8.4 times 10 to the power of, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to 10 decimal places. That's a lot easier to write than all those zeros. And in fact, they can get bigger as well. Oh, I wrote down another example here. In college, I remember I've used this number so often. 1.6 times 10 to the minus 10 to the minus 19. That's the charge on an electron. Minus 19 means there was lots of zeros, 0.0000, about 19 of them, maybe 18 of them, before the 1 and 6 came in. So you don't want to write that every time. So you need this if you're going to go and do science. If you are finding my videos useful and would like to help the channel out, on top of liking and subscribing, probably the best thing you could do is to tell other people doing the exam about my channel. Maybe you could share this video in a class WhatsApp group. Then if you feel I've really deserved it and you would like to buy me a coffee, you could become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. You should find links to that in the description below. In part C, we continue to use scientific notation. They've given us the speed of light in terms of kilometers per second. We tend to see it as meters per second, so be careful here. They've told us in kilometers per second in this case. And they want us to find out how far it travels, presumably in kilometers, but I don't think, oh they did, they asked us to give the answer in kilometers. How far it travels in 1 year. So first of all, what they've told us here is how far it travels in 1 second. So in 1 second, it'll have gone this, 3 times 10 to the 5. That's 3 with 5 zeros over after it. So 3 zeros is 1,000, 4 is 10,000, 5 is 100,000. That's 300,000 kilometers in 1 second. The width of the Earth is, I believe, about 24,000 kilometers. So that's much more. That's over 10 times the width of the Earth in 1 second. How far does it travel in 1 year? Use your calculator for a lot of this. I'll try and do it a little slower just to show you what I'm thinking. 3 times 10 to the 5, that's 1 second. Light traveling. What about in 60 seconds? Or to write that another way, 1 minute. So let's multiply that by 60. Your calculator will do this for you if you learn to use it properly. But maybe we just multiply 3 by 60. We'd get 180 times 10 to the power of 5. Or if we move 2 decimal places, 1.8 times 10 to the power of 7. That is, you don't have to do it as slowly and silly as I'm doing it now, but I'm hoping just to teach you a bit on the way. So this is combined with this one. Instead of 1 minute, how about 60 minutes? And which is obviously the same as 1 hour. Multiply this by 60. 1.8 multiplied by 60 would be 108, which we could write as 1.08 times 10. I've moved the decimal place 2 times there without you knowing, so I'll change that to a 9. Instead of 1 hour, how about 24 hours? Or obviously 1 day. I seem to be slanting over here. So multiply 1 by 24, we get about 24, or 2.592 I have here. And instead of 25, it's 2.5. So again, I've moved the decimal place another time. So we'll go back down we'll go up again to 10. Instead of 1 day, how about 365 days, which is what they were asking us. Multiply this by 365. What's 2 by 365? That'd be about 800, or 940, I guess here. So 9.4608 times 10, and I've moved the decimal place another 2 times, so that's actually 12. You don't need all these decimal places. Did they ask? Oh, actually, I don't think they told us how much decimal places to give. So this is the exact answer. They would also be fine with 9.46. I'd say they'd also be happy enough with 9. When we get to such a big number here, who cares too much? We're just looking for the general idea. A little better way to do this would have been to put into your calculator 3 times 10 to the 5 and multiply that by 60. That was this part. Multiply it by another 60. That was this part. Multiply it by 24. That was this part. Multiply it by 365. And your calculator would have given you 9.4608 times 10 to the 12. Because calculators can't give you anything bigger than, would it be 10 to the 9, I think mine can do, as decimal places. So once it gets bigger than that, they will use scientific notation. So your calculator would have done all that work for you in this case. Okay, that's it for question 6. If you have any follow-up questions, or if you see any mistakes I made, do me a favor and let me know in the comments below. But let me know where in the question you're talking about, maybe with a timestamp, will really help me. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Okay, in question 7, they give us this graph of a stock price each month. This is January, February, March, and so on down the bottom. My drawing isn't nearly as good as the one you have on your screen probably, or you will have an exam. So use that. Don't rely on my drawing too much. Part 1 asks you to estimate the value of the share on the 1st of March. So this one here was March. So basically, what is this number? You just go from here, go across, do the best you can, and make a guess at the number. For example, I think the number is 7.4. You might have wrote 7.3 or 7.5 or 7.2. All of that's fine. The examiner just would not take a number less than 7 or even 7 on its own. They wouldn't take a number bigger than 8, but they'll give you a lot of room to guess in here. They actually want students to have different numbers. Once you're not miles off, you're fine with this number. And then the answers I get following on from this are going to be different than the answers you get, because we started with a different number. Okay, so for part 2, they want us to use the graph to identify the month during which the value of one share increased by the greatest amount. Okay, so during the month of January, this is January, starting 1st of January to 1st of February. So during January, it seemed to go up this small amount. During February, it went up this quite large, larger amount anyway. In March, it went down. In April, it went down. In May, it went up this large amount. And in June, it went up this smaller amount. So it should be clear that the biggest increase was this one here. This was a pretty big decrease, but they didn't care about decreases. And either way, this increase looked even bigger. So that was it was in May. Part 2, my answer is simply May. For part B, they want us to figure out what it is in August. So that would be this one down here. This is August. What they tell us is that the value of one share was 15% lower than it was in July. So we really need this number here, and July was 8. It looked quite clear that it's on the number 8. So in July it's 8. August is 15% lower. How do we find that? A couple of ways. I'll do a couple of different ways. One way is to find 15% of 8. So multiply 8 by 0.15. That's 15%, and that will give you 1.2. So if it's 1.2 lower, it was 8. 1.2 lower, we get 8 minus 1.2 is 6.8. That's my my guess for it. You could have a different number here. You might have 8.1, 7.9. I think it looked quite clearly to be on 8 though to me. So that's the answer for part B. Another way to have done that though, instead of 15% and going 1.2 here, you could have gone directly and said, well, if it went down 15%, what we're actually looking for is 85%. 0.85. 0.85 multiplied by 8 gets you straight to the answer, 6.8. Okay, that's it for part B. In part C, they tell us that later in the year, so somewhere over here, Liam tries to predict the value of a share. But his prediction's off. He's 1.5 euro off, which is a percentage error of 16.3%. Find out what the value of the share was. Now, it doesn't look like they're giving you enough information here. But remember, they've told you that he was wrong, his error. They told you his error was 1.5. They also told you the percentage error was 16, or I'll write it as 0.163. His percentage error was that. How do you find percentage error? That's what they're really getting at. Now, I think this was a difficult question. A lot of students would have messed up here, not knowing what to do. How you get percentage error is you take the error and divide it by the correct answer. We'll call it X in this case. And the answer to that is the percentage error. So what they've really done here is giving you an equation that's not too difficult to solve. So how do we solve? We get X on its own, but we also like to get it above the dividing line. So we multiply both sides by X. So 1.5 will stay where it is. The X will move over here. And we get 0.163 multiplied by X. We still want X on its own, so we divide both sides by this, or we move that over here. 1.5 divided by 0.163 is equal X. So the real price is corrected 2 decimal places, I believe, is 9.20, or sorry, they say to the nearest cent, which is 2 decimal places. So that's another little trick they often try and get you with. If you are finding my videos useful and would like to help the channel out, on top of liking and subscribing, probably the best thing you could do is to tell other people doing the exam about my channel. Maybe you could share this video in a class WhatsApp group. Then if you feel I've really deserved it and you would like to buy me a coffee, you could become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. You should find links to that in the description below. In part D, we're getting more and more difficult as we go on here. We're talking about a model of a real thing here. This stock is moving and this company have made a model of it. That's not as complicated as it sounds. Basically, what we're saying here is if we put a number in here, so it's 0 for the right now, 1 month from now, 2 months from now, if we put any number in here, And if we put it in over here, we get what we think, that's in this case what the stock is worth. So for example, if I put in 0, P0, I will get 2 times 1.29 to the power of 0, which all comes out as 2. That's what they've given to us in this table. So at 0, we get 2. If I put 1 in, they haven't given us that yet. If I put 2 in, they've told us I will get 3.33. And you could try that. Put 3 in here. 2 multiplied by 1.29 to the power of 3. We do all this in a calculator, you'll hopefully get that out. And that's all they want to do for each part. Put a 2 in here. 2 multiplied by 1.29 to the power of 2. Be careful. Do it multiple times. You're going to get lots of marks for this part, so you have lots of time to do it. You're going to get 2.8. Let's put in a few lines there so you can read it. Put 3 in, you get 4.29. Put 4 in, you get, I can't read my own writing, 5.54. 5, you get 7.14, and I'll just barely squeeze it in. We get 9.22 for the last part. And this is part 1 of part D. For part 2, they then ask us, they give us this graph again over here. The graph of company A is shown again. They want you to draw this graph on this graph. So what does that mean? At month 0, this stock was worth about 4. At month 1, it was worth whatever it is, about 5 here, I think. At month 3 or March, it was worth 7.4. We talked about that one. And so on across. We put these numbers in here. Month 0, it's worth 2. At month 1, 2.5, which is somewhere about here. At month 3, 3.3, which should be around here. Your drawing doesn't have to look just like mine, but we should be getting similar looking drawings. 4 is, sorry, it's 0, 1, 2, 3 I've missed out. 4.2 is about here. Next is 5.5, somewhere around here. 7.1, I go up and go over to around 7. 7.1, something like this. Next, 9.2 is somewhere up here, and we just put lines in between them. You don't have to put a curve in, but you could if you want. Just so you know, a function like this will look like what it should look like. Mine doesn't look like it too much. It should look something like this. It's starting to go up quite quickly near the end. At start, it barely went up, but after a while, it's going up quite quickly. You don't need to know this, but this is actually telling you it's going up 29% every month, which is a crazy amount. You'd be very rich if you bought this stock and it continued. But of course, we're going to find out in the next part, it doesn't continue. Oh, I'm sorry, before the part E, we're going to go do part 3. And they tell us that only 1 point does the value of company A equal the value of company B. What month does that happen in? If you draw in your graph correctly, it should be quite easy to see. It happens in the month of March, right here. Now, E is really difficult. I said D was getting difficult. E is even more difficult. They want you to make your own model. You're really going to have to understand what they're saying at this point. This model, QN, is equal. They've left a gap here, minus 0.3N. They've told you what's happening. They've said this new model starts when company B reaches its highest value on the 1st of July. That was right here at 9.22. And onwards from there, it drops 30 cents, not percent, 30 cent every month. That's where this 0.3 comes in. That's 30 cent. So what this model is, so I guess you could have guessed at this. What this model is saying, it starts at 9.22 and every month it goes down. That's what the minus is. It goes down 0.3. So after 1 month, it goes down 1 of them. After 2 months, it goes 2 times this. After 10 months, 10 times this, and so on and so on. So E part 1 is just to fill in this number there. Part 2 asks you, using this expression or otherwise, find out how many months it takes for the value of the share to fall below its value on the 1st of January. Just as a reminder, January was at $2, €2. I keep saying dollars. I think euros. I mean, I think stocks. I always think dollars for some reason. So €2 at the 1st of January. How long will it take? It's dropping 30 cents every month. This is probably a difficult question, but it's also an easy one if you have a little bit of time. I think a lot of students can start guessing the answer to this just by doing it multiple times on a piece of paper. This number, take away 0.3. Take away another 0.3, another 0.3, another 0.3. How long does it take to get to €2? The answer is about 25 or so times, or 25 months. So it might take you a while to do. Let me show you how to do it the maths way. What they're saying is this expression, this QN, or as 9.22 minus 0.3n. When is this less than 2? That's what they asked you. When does it fall below its value of the 1st of January? Less than 2. So really we just have to solve this inequality. All the n's one side, all the numbers the other. So minus 0.3n, we leave that where it is, less than 2, take this away from both sides, minus 9.22. Let's clean this up, 0.3n less than minus 7.22, so that should be a minus there. Divide both sides by minus 0.3. That leaves an n this side, and that's minus 7.22 divided by minus 0.3. Remember what happens when we multiply or divide by a minus. We change this direction. This will get n is bigger than 24 point something. Let me just check my notes. 24.07. So n is bigger than 24 by 0. You will lose a mark or two for this answer. They warn you right at the end. They say, remember, n is a natural number. N is an element of n. It's a natural number. They don't want 24.04. Again, you'd lose a mark for rounding this off to 24. It needs to be bigger than this number. The only natural number, the first natural number bigger than this is 25, and that's the answer. N is, well, I guess equal 25. You could write. Other ways you could do that. You could think about the number being 9.22. You want to get to 2. The difference, let's squeeze it in here, it's a bit easier. The difference between 9.22 and 2 is 7.2. How many months does it take 0.3 to go into that? Or how many times does 0.3 go into that? And you will get 24.07 there. You need bigger than that, so you will get to 25. It's another way to think of that. Okay, that's it for question 7. If you have any questions about that, it's a hard question. They all get difficult after the first 6. If you have any questions about this, or you see any mistakes I made, please let me know in the comments, and do me a favor, tell me where in the question you're talking about, preferably by using a timestamp. It really helps me a lot. Thank you for watching, and have a great day. In question 8, they tell us a story about a company selling a phone and how much profit they make. And they make a model of that story with this equation. So this is the profit, P is the profit, and X is how many phones they sell. If you tell me how many phones they sell, this equation will tell you what the profit is. There's a few little things about it. X is, it's not just the number of phones, it's how many tens of thousands of phones it is. So 1 is 10,000, 2 is 20, and so on. And then P tells you how much million of euro they make. In A part 1, they ask us to find what P0 is. So that's P when we put 0 in for X. And that's, we just put 0 in for X. Minus 1.5, 0 squared, plus 10.5 multiplied by 0, minus 4. 0 is usually the easy one, because anything multiplied by 0, 0 multiplied by 0 is 0. 0 multiplied by minus 1, minus 1.5 is 0. 10.5 multiplied by 0 is 0. So the only thing left is this minus 4. So the answer to A part 1 is minus 4. But they also want you to just say something about what it means. All this means is if you sell 0 phones, that's what this 0 is, you will make profit of minus 4 million, or put another way, you will lose 4 million. That's all they want to say. Lose 4 million will be enough there. In A part 2, they want us to find more numbers for these profit, and they want to fill them all out in a table. I'll do a couple of them over here and then just write in the rest. So basically, they want us to put 0 in, and what profit do we get? We just did that, so that'll be -4. They gave us a couple of them. They gave us, if you put 1 in, you get 5, and if you put 5 in, you get 11. We need to do the rest of them. So for example, I'll do a couple of them here. If we put 2 in, P of 2, just like I put 0 in here, is equal -1.5 times 2 squared plus 10.5 times 2 -4. We do this slowly. Use your calculator. Do it a couple of times. Make sure you're getting the same answer each time. 2 by 2 is 4. 4 times 1.5 is 6, and a minus, so we have -6. 2 times 10.5 is 21, and take away another 4. That's 21 minus 10, that's 11. This number here is 11. And we stay going on. We can do 3 the same way. We would get, if I just check my notes, 14. If we put 4 in, we would also get 14. There's a trick at this point. You could just put 6 in just this slow way. That's how most students would have done it. But this is a quadratic equation. It's symmetrical. The middle is somewhere here in the middle, between 3 and 4. It's 3.5, I would say. It's symmetrical about that, because 14 equals 14. 11 equals 11. 5, this number here will be 5. You can test it if you want. And if you put 7 in, you will get -4, because it's a symmetrical equation, which we'll see when we draw it. In part 3, they ask us to put all these numbers in on a graph. And just do this slowly, carefully. My drawing's not going to be the best because it's on a whiteboard. You in the exam, you'll have the paper they've given you with lines on it. Should be quite easy to do. Or if you're just practicing, use a bit of graph paper. Quite cheap to buy a bundle of them. Okay, so all these numbers. 0, x is the 0 line. This is the line here. This is in fact even already called x, and this is p. So instead of x and y, we've x and p. Y is very often different letters, G, P, Q, whatever. So if we put 0 in, we get minus. Oh, I haven't actually gone all the way down to the bottom there. We should have -4 down here. If I put 1, go to 1, I go up to about 5. 2 goes to 11. 3 goes to 14, 4 goes to 14, 5 goes to 11, 6 goes to 5, and 7 goes to -4 again. We just want to draw this in like this. There we go. We get the classic quadratic equation. So you can see what I was talking about being symmetrical. Down through should be around 3.5. That's why once I knew this side, I knew the corresponding side. Although I wouldn't have known until I got to the 14 and the 14 that it was going to repeat. Although actually, sorry, I would have known because they gave us 11. So as soon as I found this 11, I could have actually filled them all in. Although I would have had to do one of these two to know. Then in part 4, they want you to use the graph you've just drawn to estimate the value for X for which the company has made a profit of 6 million. Remember, this axis is the profit axis. Here's 6. If we draw a line across like this, this is where they made 6 million. Sorry, made a profit of at least 6 million. So everything above this line is what they're looking for. They want you to show your work on the graph. What they really want to see is this line across I've just drawn at your 6 point. And where it hits, they want you to mark that, and they want you to put a line down like this. I'll just go to my notes because my drawing obviously is not good enough to do this. I had a quick look at where the rough answer should be. This should be roughly at 1.1, which doesn't look too bad, and this should be roughly at 5.9. That's not the full answer. You will lose a mark or two for that. They asked about when their profit will be at least 6 million. Well, it's at least 6 million up here as well. Anything above this. So what they're really looking for is when x is bigger than or equal to whatever number you got here, 1.1, and less than or equal to whatever number you found here, 5.9. Remember, it doesn't really matter if these numbers are wrong. If you just got these numbers and didn't put in a less than and bigger than, I think you would lose a mark or two if they were being quite strict. Although the way they worded the question, it was quite difficult. So I wouldn't be surprised if they gave students full marks just for the numbers without the less than or greater than. If you are finding my videos useful and would like to help the channel out, on top of liking and subscribing, probably the best thing you could do is to tell other people doing the exam about my channel. Maybe you could share this video in a class WhatsApp group. Then if you feel I've really deserved it and you would like to buy me a coffee, you could become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. You should find links to that in the description below. In part B, we're moving on to the second year of this company's life, and they have a new model to model out the profit. Some of the numbers are slightly different, but it's still a quadratic. We're still going to get roughly this shape, just like we did in the first year. But they've asked us to use differentiation this time to find out when their maximum profit would be. Remember, we use differentiation to find these maximums because differentiation tells us the slope of a tangent. And the slope at the maximum point or the minimum point will be flat. That means the slope will be 0. That means the derivative will be 0. But let's do this in stages. First of all, let's just find the derivative. So here's qx. We want the derivative of qx. Remember our rules for differentiation. We take this number, we multiply by this number here. So 2 times minus 1.5 is minus 3. Then we take 1 away from that number, leaving us a 1. You don't have to write 1 in. It's okay if you do though. Next we do the same thing, although it's a nice shortcut. We can just, the x disappears. Most students just remember it that way. 9.6, and anything without an x, that disappears as well. So we're left with minus 3x plus 9.6. That'll get you lots of marks. What'll get you more marks though is to write it again, but this time write it equal to 0. Again, the reason it's equal to 0 is because it's at a maximum point. We just solved this. Just move everything around till x is on its own. So let's say we'll leave minus 3x where it is, and we'll move this 9.6 over the equals. So we'll get minus 9.6. Or I guess I should leave the 0 where it is maybe, and say 0 minus 9.6. Same thing. The zeros just can disappear. Next, let's get rid of the minus 3. We'll divide both sides by minus 3. Or if you like to think of it as the minus 3 comes over and goes underneath minus 3. So put that into your calculator, but that is equal to 3.2. That's your answer to part B, part 1. Part 2, we need to use this. So many students forget to do this next part. If I were to draw a graph like last time, something like that, it doesn't really matter what it's exactly. What we've just found here is this point here, 3.2. What they're looking for in part 2 is how much profit, this number over this part of the graph. How do we do that? We did it about 6 times in the previous part. We put this number into this equation. We get q, instead of x, we put 3.2 in there. And that would equal minus 1.5 times 3.2 squared plus 9.6, I'm running out of space, times 3.2 minus 3.5. Sorry for squeezing that in. Hopefully hopefully you can see it and you can hear what I said. Now you put all this in on your calculator or do it slowly. I'm not sure which is better. You could easily make mistakes either way. I'd advise do it both ways. Make sure your answer matches. So what I mean, put all that in one go and get an answer, but then also maybe put it in slowly, like minus 1.5 times 3.2 squared. That would give you minus 15.36. What was the next bit? 9.6 multiplied by 3.2. That would give you 30.72. Then minus 3.5. Altogether would be 11.86. Yeah, I'd advise anything like this, do it twice. It's so easy to lose marks for a tiny mistake, and it would only take you maybe 20 seconds to do something like this twice. Okay, also make sure your answer makes sense. We seen the previous part looked similar, and their profit was between -4 and 14 or so. So this sort of number for a maximum doesn't look too out of place. If your number here was 5,000, and remember everything's in millions, something's maybe gone wrong. So just be wary of things like that. In part C, they've given us another graph. All the numbers on the graph they've given you. Mine, I haven't bothered here. I'm fed up drawing out all the numbers. We're only going to need this for a few moments. This is or x this time. They haven't given us an actual equation for it. What they want you to do is they want you to use this graph, or the exact one they've given you, to find or2. So this is similar to what we've done already. This is when x equals 2, what is or? We go to wherever x is 2, should be here, and the examiner will be looking for this. They want you to put a dotted line up like this, or any line really, and go across, and they want you to read whatever number you find there. You will have different numbers, everyone will have different numbers, but they want you to read roughly what you see there. From I can see it on the computer screen, it lands nearly exactly on 8. So or2 is 8, so I imagine everyone will have something very close to 8. Next, they've told us, or before that actually, they told us at the start of the third year, the company actually received 3 million in extra funding, sort of a little bonus. So this graph is completely wrong. or2 is 8, but how much they really make, and what they asked you for, is or2 plus 3, that's just 11. Now, of course, that seems very simple, but what they're really doing is setting you up for the next part, C part 2. They want you to draw this new graph. Instead of ORX, they want you to draw ORX plus 3. It's really easy to change a graph with just a plus number. Plus 3 just means everybody went up 3. You read this off as 8. When we added 3 on, we got 11. So we actually got a number here. At 2, we would have been up here. At this starting point, it was at -4. If we add 3 onto that, we'd actually be here. At 1, just looking at my graph here, it looks like around 3.5. We add 3 to that, we'd be up here at 6.5 somewhere. You could do this all the way around. At the very top point, we'd actually be 3 above that. Down here, we'd actually be up here. This point, we'd actually be up here. That's our new graph. Everything just moves up 3, and we just draw that new graph like that. Sometimes we have questions like this and students think, oh, I didn't think it was that because it seems too easy. We're at a hard part in the exam. Why is it so easy? I'm just drawing something up a bit. Because they're not, they don't expect this to be difficult. What they expect is you not to understand what they want you to do. That was the difficult part. To understand that or2 plus 3, or x plus 3 means everyone goes up a step. So implementing it wasn't difficult. Understanding what you were meant to do was the difficult part, and that's what they're trying to test you on. Okay, that's it for question 8. If you have any follow-up questions or you think I made a mistake somewhere, let me know in the comments below. Do me a favor and let me know where in the video you're asking about with a timestamp. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Question 9 starts off with a question about someone saving money. They have €4,500. They put it into a bank and they put it somewhere, and they get a savings rate of 2.8%. And basically we're asked how much will they have after 1 year, after 2, after 3, something like that. Oh sorry, yeah, A part 1 just starts 1 year. How much will they have after 1 year? Couple of ways to do this. I'll do it the slightly slower and then slightly faster way just to show you. The way a lot of students do is they get 2.8% of this. Your calculator will do that, but really it's just multiplying this by 2.8%. Remember, 2.8% is actually, you need to divide it by 100 to get its actual number, its decimal number. So we get 0.028. Lots of students put 28 here instead of 0.28. That'd be 28%. So be very careful about that. Yeah, you can put that in and you would get 126. Again, a lot of students leave this as their answer. This is not what they asked you. They asked you how much money will be in your account after 1 year. You put 4,500 in, and you didn't take anything out, so I hope there's more than that. What you found here is your interest. You need to add this onto here. So the answer would be 4,626. There's a faster way to do that. If you're going to deal with interest a lot, it's helpful to remember it. 4,500 multiplied by, instead of 0.028, 1.028. What this is doing is it's giving you the original amount, that's the 1 part, and it's adding on 0.28, which is the percentage. Put all that in and you'll get 4,626. Okay, for part 2, they pretty much ask the same thing, but how much will you have after 3 years? And remember, they're saying compound interest. You can do this a really slow way. You've done your first year. A really slow way would just do the same again every year, especially if you did it this way. Find out the interest in the second year, then add it on. Find out the interest in the third year, then add it on. Lots of students do that. It's fine. It's just a little slower. I'm going to use this method here to make it a little bit faster. That's the first year, year 1 here. Year 2 would simply be this new number, 4,628 multiplied by 1.028. And if you put that in, you would get 55.528, or to the nearest cent would be 53. So that's a little faster doing it that. But again, you could have just got 0.028, found the interest and added on. It would only take an extra 30 seconds. So we're not talking the end of the world if you did it that way. But third year, you do the same thing again here, 4,755.528. There's an even faster way I'm going to show you in a moment. Multiply by 1.028, and the final answer would be, and I've rounded this one off to the nearest cent, 2 decimal places, it's 4,888.68. The even faster way to do all this for 3 years, and maybe you can see it from what I did here. I got this number multiplied by that. I got this number multiplied by that. Really what I did from the very start, 4,500, if you put that into a bank account for 3 years at the interest rate of 2.8%, it's just like multiplying by 1.028 to the power of however many number of years, power of 3. If you put that into your calculator, you'll get the final answer in one go. And in fact, if they asked you, I wrote here 20 years, if they asked you how much would they have after 20 years, you couldn't do it by hand. You'd be there for 20-30 minutes and you wouldn't finish the exam, I would say, in time. So if you wanted 20 years, you can still do it in nearly the same time. Put all that in a calculator, and if you're interested, you'd actually have 7,817. Not that much extra, that's because it's not that great of an interest rate really. Okay, let's go on to the next part. If you are finding my videos useful and would like to help the channel out, on top of liking and subscribing, probably the best thing you could do is to tell other people doing the exam about my channel. Maybe you could share this video in a class WhatsApp group. Then if you feel I've really deserved it and you would like to buy me a coffee, you could become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. You should find links to that in the description below. Right, in B, they've given us these drawings, these three drawings, and we're missing one of them. And they want us to draw in the missing one. Sorry, they've given us actually the dots in this missing one, which is nice of them. I love questions like this because I enjoy maths. These are nice problem solving questions, but I understand students don't love these because you can't learn them. There's nothing, you can't study them. It's either you're able to do them, you're able to figure out the pattern, or you can't. We will have some maths later on in the question, but still we need to do a bit of puzzle solving. I'd say most students did this, at least this anyway. You either got the answer right or you probably put this in. This is not the full answer. Okay, it seems like it is a line, a triangle, a square. The clue is this one, all these lines in the middle. What's actually happening here is every dot is hitting every dot. There's only 2 dots though, so one line. Every dot hits every other dot. This one hits 2 things. This hits 2 things, and this hits 2 things. Again, here, it's more obvious to see this one. Every dot hits every other dot. So what we actually need, if you just drew this, you're not hitting every one until you put a line across like that and a line across like that. That's the full marks there. So I'm guessing some students probably lost marks for not putting those middle 2 crosses in. In part 2, they want you to fill in this table here, and they've done some of it for you. Let's see. For pattern 1, this is pattern 1 here. How many dots has it got? Has 2. They've done that for you. For pattern 2, this one, how many dots has it got? It has 3. They've done that for you. They want you to fill in the rest. Pattern 3, this one here, they already drew the 4 dots for you, so you can just count them up. There's 4 dots, not too hard. This one is you can just count them up. There's actually 5 dots here. It's the last one we have to use a bit of thought for, and it shouldn't be too difficult. 2, 3, 4, 5. It's clearly going to be 6. And if we said going, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that one's not too hard. Same again for the line. They did the first one for you. How many lines are there? There's 1. For the fourth one, again, they've saved you a bit of work there, counting all these lines. There's actually 10 there. How many lines is on this one? 1, 2, 3. We can count that up. How many lines here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There's 6 lines there. I guess some students would argue that this is a line and this is a line. No, there's no dot in the middle. What we're calling a line is between the 2 dots. So I guess you could argue that, but I think it was clear that they wanted 6 there. What's the last one? And this is the harder part. What's the pattern going on here? There's a couple of ways you could probably see it, and maybe you just can't see it. But the numbers goes up 2, then it goes up 3, then it goes up 4. So the next one, it's going to go up 5. The other way I sort of seen it was, this is 1 plus 2 gets 3. 3 plus 3 gets 6. 6 plus 4 gets 10. 10 plus 5 gets 15. They're both the same pattern in sort of a different looking way, but that's what's happening here. Next, they want us to find how many dots would be in the 1000 pattern. You're not going to continue this table on all the way to 1000. In pattern 1, there's 2. In pattern 2, there's 3. In pattern 5, there's 6. So in pattern 1000, there's going to be 1001. It's just one number bigger each time. How many lines there's going to be? That's a different question. They don't actually ask it, but we could probably get it. If you can get the next part, you could probably get this. So in part 4, they tell us SN is the total number of dots required to make the first N patterns. Students would hate this question, I'm sure. It's very difficult to read. It's a very maths way to read. Here's a hint, and it's something that you can help you in lots of exam questions. Try read that question again with, instead of N, with a few different numbers. We'll start with 1. S1 is the total number of dots required to make the first 1 pattern. We can read that. That first 1 pattern will be here. How many dots is needed to make that? 2. S1 is 2. I'll read that again. I'll do this 3 times. I'll read it again. Instead of N, I'm just going to say 2. S2 is the total number of dots required to make the first 2 patterns. First 2 patterns is this and this. That might have slipped up a lot of students. We're not talking about this one, we're talking about both of these now. How many dots are needed? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We need 5 dots for that. S3 is how many dots are needed to make up the first 3 patterns. So we add in another 4 to this, we get to 9. I think that would have helped some students start this question off. Doesn't help you all the way though. The next clue they've sort of given you here, so they want to write out SN in terms of N. Some students might be able to do that from this. You would have covered that in your school book, in your book, in your class, but it's quite a difficult thing to do. The clue they're giving you here is the fact that they said SN at all. The examiner wants to help you. They want you to think of, sequence and series. They want you to think of this as an arithmetic sequence, because that's what the dots are. There's 2 dots, there's 3 dots, there's 4 dots. This is an arithmetic sequence where the first term is equal to 2 and the difference is equal to 1. The sum of the first terms, they're talking about the sum, the total number of dots, that is the sum. We're adding up 2 to get 2, 2 plus 3 to get 5, 2 plus 3 plus 4 will get 9. That's all we're doing here. We're doing the arithmetic sum of this sequence. And we have a formula for that. Sn is equal to n divided by 2 multiply, I'm trying to remember this in my head, 2 times a plus n minus 1 times d, I hope. Let me just double check my notes. Indeed, okay, minus 1. I'm always mixing up the minus with a plus for some reason. This will get you most of your marks, but remember, we know what a is and we know what d is, so let's fill it in. Sn is equal to n over 2, 2 times a is 4, plus n minus 1 multiplied by 1. Oh, well, then we can get rid of the bracket. 1 multiplied by n is n, 1 multiplied by minus 1 is minus 1. I think you might lose a mark there because we have 4 minus 1. We can simplify that a little bit. N over 2, 4 minus 1 is 3 plus n. That'll get you full marks. You can multiply this in if you want. That'll get you full marks as well. You can play around with this. But at this point, that's full marks for part 4. Before I go on to part 5, I forgot, I could see another way that you could do part 4, the Sn term. Yeah, I'll continue on with this idea. I'll write it again though. S1 is equal to, S2 is equal to 2 plus 3. S3 is equal to plus 3 plus 4. Sn, I would accept this as an answer, and I'm guessing an examiner would have to, but although it's probably not in the marking scheme. I don't think the marking scheme's out yet, so I haven't seen it. But Sn is 2 plus 3 plus 4, and maybe you'd need a plus dot 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 and plus n. That's Sn in terms of n. This is perfectly correct. It looks very different than this, and it's not as useful as this. You're not going to be able to use this in the next part unless you know how to turn this into this, which you can, by the way. But that'd be another answer for part 4. Okay, let me clean some of this off and we'll do part 5. So in part 5, they ask you to find the total number of complete patterns in the sequence that can be made using 720 dots. This is how many dots the nth pattern needs. So if we put in well, actually, here's a couple of ways. I just thought of an easier way to do this question. If you put 10 into this instead of n, you'll find out how many dots you need to make the first 10 patterns. And I'm guessing the answer, well, let me just cheat and look at the final answer. Yeah, you'll find a number much less than 740. Put in 100, you'll find a number bigger than 740. So you're just narrowing down where the answer is. You could probably do it by guessing 5 or 6 times. You should be able to find the correct number for this. Actually, yeah, so that's a perfectly okay way to do this. I'm going to show you the more maths way to do it. The maths way to do it is this number has to be bigger than or equal to how many dots? So n over 2 multiplied by 3 plus n. This has to be, less than or equal to 740. It's okay if you put in equals here. I think most students would have put in equals here, and it turns out an equal is fine. The number of dots does work out exactly right, but technically we should have had a less than or equals to. I'm not going to bother because I think it might just confuse some students, and it's not fully necessary here. At the end, if it turns out we did need it, we can always just rearrange things. That might sound like cheating or something, but really we're just doing the maths to answer the question. The maths itself doesn't matter what we write if we are using it to answer the question, and that's all we're doing. So whether it's an equals or a less than, you can still answer the question if you use a bit of logic at the end. Okay, so the intended way to do this would have been to write this out and to solve for n. It's a pretty hard one to solve. We could try multiplying these brackets out. So let's do that first. n over 2 times 3 would be 3n over 2. n over 2 times n would be n squared over 2. equals 740. Or we could have multiplied the 2 first, moved it across. That probably is a better way to do it. I'll do that now. I'll multiply everybody by 2. Multiply this by 2, it'll disappear. Multiply that by 2, it'll disappear. Multiply this by 2, we'll get 1480. At this point, hopefully you're starting to see this is a quadratic equation. We have an n squared. We have a 3n. I've changed these around. I've not really changed anything. This plus this is the same as the other way. If I move this guy over the equals, it becomes a minus 1480 equals 0. This is a quadratic equation that we can solve. As it happens, we can actually factorize this. A number does go in equally, it goes in nicely to this. I don't expect many students to factorize this. I didn't factorize in my head. I used a little cheat. I used the calculator because I know this number is quite small compared to this one. So the answer must be around about the square root of this. And so the square root is something like 39 or so. So I just tested a few numbers around 39 and one of them went in evenly. How I advise you to do it is the minus b formula. I'll go a little quickly because I don't have that much room. But the minus b formula would have a equals 1, b equals 3, and c equals minus 1480. And that would tell you that n is equal to minus 3, that's minus b, plus or minus the square root of b squared, 3 squared, that's 9, minus 4 times a, so that's minus 4, 4 times 1, that's minus 4, multiplied by minus 1480. So we're going to end up using square root anyway. And this is all divided by 2. Put this in on a calculator. I don't have it written in my notes, but 4 multiplied by this on a calculator would be around, I guess, it'd be 5,920. It's not actually that hard to do. 5,920 plus 9, and we put that into a calculator. And let me just check my notes on this one. No, I couldn't figure it out from my notes, so I had to go to my trusty calculator. The square root of this would be 77. So we would have minus 3 plus or minus 77 divided by 2. So that's equal to, let's see, it'd be 74 over 2. Well, let me write them out. 74 over 2, or it would be minus 80 over 2. So it would be 37, or it would be minus 40. Remember, we're talking about n. How many patterns? 1 pattern, 2 pattern, 3 patterns, 40 patterns, but never minus pattern. That wouldn't make sense. So that one's out. 37 is the answer. 37 patterns could be made exactly with 740. All that talk about having less than would be, if they had given us the number 741, we could have still just made 37 patterns and we'd have an extra dot. So that was what I was talking about there. As I do this, I think to myself that definitely the easier way to do this question was just to put in numbers into this. Put 10 in, see what you get. Put 20 in, see what you get. Put 30 in, you'd still be less than 740. Put 40 in, you'd be over it. Try 35, you'd be under. Try 38, you'd be over. Try 37, you'd find it. A bit of work in your calculator, you wouldn't have had to do all this. If you do something like that in the exam, just tell them you're doing it every time. Tell them, put 10 in, write down what your calculator said. Tell them, I put 20 in, write down what your calculator said. You'll get full marks if you do it correctly. Okay, the final part of this question 9, which I think I would categorize as probably the hardest question in this paper so far. It's not too hard of a final part though. They've given us this formula here for the number of line segments in the nth term. And they just want you to find out what b is. Now that might seem difficult, but remember we have a table. I've rubbed it out, I still have it in my notes here, for how many lines is in each pattern. Let me write it again. Pattern 1, we'll have 1 line, 2, 3, I'll put in just 5 of them. Pattern 2, we'll have 3, then 6, then 10, then 15. That's how many lines were in the drawings they gave us. What they're telling you is this equation will do the same thing. If I put 1 in here, I should find 1 out. If I put 2 in, I should get 3 out. If I put 4, and so on. We should get everything out. As it's the last part, you might expect there's a lot of work to do here. There's not really. You pick any one of these you want, or even there was a sixth one, I believe. Pick any one you want. I'll go ahead with t of 1, the first pattern. This is not the number of dots around, this is the pattern. T of 1 is equal to 0.5 times 1 squared plus b times 1. But I know the answer is 1. So forget that. This is an equation with just b here. 1 by 1 is 1. Multiplied by half is just a half. Plus 1 times b, that's just b. Rearrange this so b is on its own. Or just think here, a half plus what is equal 1? Well, b is a half, but let's do it slowly. B is equal 1 minus a half. This comes over to a minus. B is equal 0.5. That's your answer. And if you don't believe me, you could have used any one of these. Let's use 3 this time. T of 3 is equal 0.5 times 3 squared plus 3 times b. But I know the answer is 6. 3 by 3 is 9. 9 times this is 4.5 plus 3b is equal 6. 3b is equal, take this from both sides, 6 minus 4.5. 3b is equal 1.5. Divide both sides by 3 and we get 0.5 again. And you get the same no matter which one you put in. There was a clue that you'd get an answer. Oh, sorry, another way to write 0.5 is 1 over 2. And there was a clue your answer might be a fraction like this, because they said b was an element of a q. That means it's a quotient. That means it's a fraction. And yeah, they don't need it written like this though. 0.5 is perfectly fine. Okay, that's it for question 9. If you have any questions, pretty long and hard question. So if you have any questions or you see any mistakes I made, let me know in the comments, please. Do me a favour though, put in the timestamp. Saves me looking through the whole question 3 years from now when you ask your question. That'll help me out a lot. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Question 10 is all about a factory that makes boxes. They've given us a drawing here. This box is closed. That means it has a top, bottom, each side, front, back, everything. It's fully enclosed. That's important because part 1 asks us to draw a net of this box. Remember what a net is. It's I guess it's an idea of a piece of paper. What shape of paper would we need to fold into this shape? There is hundreds of answers to this question. I'm going to draw you the most common one and then I'll give you one more example. They also, yeah, this was important I guess, they wanted to be 1/10 scale, 1 to 10 scale. That means instead of 70 centimeters, they want to be 10 less than that, or sorry, 1/10 of that. So instead of 7 centimeters, they want to be 7 centimeters. They give you a grid to put this into. I don't have that, so you'll just have to bear with me. So they would like to be 1/7. So the measurements I'm looking for is 7 long and 3 up. And I'm just going to draw, this is the top or bottom of the box. Yeah, let me put in 7 and 3. So you'd measure this out. Actually, you don't need to measure it out because the exam paper told you each square was 1 centimeter long. So you just count out 7 squares, 3 squares. This would be the top of the box, or indeed the bottom. Next, we need these sides. I'm going to do these long sides here. That'd be here. Again, it'd be 7 long and it'd be 20 high. So it'd be 2 high in your drawing, 2 squares up. You'd need another one down here. That's also 2. Then you need these ends. That would be, let's see, that'd be 2 out from here. 2. That'd be 2 out from here. 2. You don't need to put these numbers in, of course. Your drawing should have it like it's on the, this is just how many squares it is on the piece of paper. And then finally, we also need the top of the box. Let's say this is the bottom. The top of the box, that could actually go anywhere. It could go out here. It could go up here, it could go down here, or over here. In fact, I'll just put it down here. All that's important is it goes somewhere that you could fold it back up. Like you couldn't put it off, for example, over here. That wouldn't make sense. Very quickly, I'll draw you another example that would also be correct. There's the bottom. You could have the side come off like this. You could have the top over here, and then you could have the other side like this. And then let's put in some letters here. We call this A, and that'd be A. This would be B, and that would be B is down here. If you're with me, let's say bottom. Oh, I've already used B. C and D. That could be the C. That could be the D. And then the front. Well, it's too hard to draw three-dimensionally. Hopefully you get the idea. And that could go lots of places as well. I guess it could go over here, but it could also go here. Well, let's even do it weird. It could go there, but also it could go like this. Yeah, there's hundreds of different combinations of this. Once it's correct, once you could actually fold all this together, and that's really just if you're able to do that in your head. We certainly don't have time in the exam to cut it out and to try it. I'm sure you did that in the classroom at some stage. Okay, that's the answer to part 1. For part 2, they want you to work out the surface area of the box. It's very helpful to have the net. In this case, we're going to replace them with all the numbers though, because they want the actual box, not the drawing of the box. So it's going to be, we'll have two of these big areas, the top and the bottom, and they're going to be 70 multiplied by 30. 70 by 30, but we're going to have two of them. So you can put all that in a calculator. This would be 2,100 times 2, 4,200. That's written somewhere. 4,200. That'd be centimeters squared. Same the sides here, the front and the back sort of side. I think I don't know what I'm calling them. They're 70 times 20, and there's two of them as well. That would be 2,800. Again, all these are centimeters squared. It doesn't matter if you don't write centimeters squared. In your science class, in your any science subject you're doing, your answer better have the units or you will lose marks. Maths, you're not going to lose marks for it, although it's probably helpful that you do have it. The two ends would be 30 times 20. There's two of them as well, and that's 1,200. Add all that together and we get 8,200 centimeters squared. If you are finding my videos useful and would like to help the channel out, on top of liking and subscribing, probably the best thing you could do is to tell other people doing the exam about my channel. Maybe you could share this video in a class WhatsApp group. Then if you feel I've really deserved it and you would like to buy me a coffee, you could become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. You should find links to that in the description below. And next they sneak in a currency conversion question. They tell us the factory buys a machine from China and it's going to cost them 353,819.34 yuan. That's the Chinese yuan. But it also going to cost them an extra 1,000, so add to this, 1,890 euro. So we'll put this one in euro and we'll put this one in yuan. Using the exchange rate, one goes to 7.61. How much is this going to cost the factory? So they have to pay this number plus this one, and we want it in euro. So we don't have to do anything with this. When we get our final answer, we'll add this on, and that's it. So forget about this for the moment. Really, I want you to change this big number here, 353,000 into euro. Very simple way to do it is just divide by this number. That's, if you're able to do that, if you're good at using currency conversion, you divide by this, you've got your answer. I like to do it a really slow and silly way. This goes to 1. How does 353,000 go to, what does that go to? And how I do that is I just do a few sums in a row. I change 7.61 into 1. How do I do that? I divide it by itself. If I'm going to do that here, I better do it on this side. 1 divided by 7.61. You don't have to put it on a calculator at the moment. Next, how do I get from 1 up to this big number? I multiply by this big number. And if I do it on the right, I better do it on the left. So I get 353,800 and that's 19 or 17. 19 by 3,4, multiplied by 1, which is just the same, divided by 7.61. Like I said, it's just divide by this. Put that in the calculator and you will get, I'm sure there's a number here somewhere. Let's see, 46,494, and that's in euro. That's how much the machine cost, including the shipping, but they still have to pay the customs, the tax on it. Add that on and we get our final answer of 48,384. That's the final answer there. Let me clear this off and we'll do part B. In part B, they tell us about a worker called Kira, and she gets a wage of 780 euro for working 40 hours. But then they also tell us that if she works more than 40 hours, she gets a rate that's 50% more. And on a particular week, she works her 40 hours plus an extra N. So she, N extra hours. And her total wage is 1,043.25. They want us to figure out how many extra hours she worked. The maths isn't all that difficult, but they haven't helped you. They haven't given you the steps to do this one. So I would say a lot of students failed at this. Or I'd say if a student, most level students, if they just worked at this for a little extra time, just tried 5 or 6 different things, they would get to the answer, because the maths isn't that difficult. It was just they were testing how you would do without being helped too much. So here's how I thought about doing the question. First thing I thought to myself is, how much did she get paid for her normal work? Because I know she gets 50% extra for her extra work. So I wanted to figure out what her hourly wage was. And remember, they told us it's 780 for 40 hours. So I want to know how much it is for 1 hour. So divide this by 40 and we get for 1 hour. For 1 hour she would get, if that's divided by 40, I think it's 19 point something. Yeah, 19.5. That's how much she gets paid for 1 hour of work. So at that point I thought to myself, well, how much does she get paid for the overtime work? She gets 50% more than that. We've done that a few times in this exam at least. 50% of this. You could get 19.5 multiplied by 0.5, that's 50%. And that would get you, I don't think I have that done, but I guess it's 9.25, 9.75, 9.75 I think. That might be wrong. Because what I actually did is I got 19.5 her wage and I multiplied it by 1.5. That tells me how much, that's 50% extra. That's our original amount, the 1, plus an extra 50%. And I put that in and I got 29.25. That's how much she gets paid for her extra hours. This is the meat of the question. If you found this, you're nearly there. And I'm guessing a lot of students didn't find this. Because once you have this, it's quite straightforward. How much did she get paid that week? She got paid 780 plus something, and that something was 29.25 multiplied by, well, how many hours she worked, and that's what they're asking us about, N. And we know the answer is 1,043.25. So we can find N quite easily. There'd be different ways to get there. You probably could have just started with this whole equation and backed out trying to find this. But I think most students would probably find it best to do it this way. Especially in a real world situation. How much are they getting paid? How much is their bonus pay? You should probably all be able to do that because it's very likely to come up something like that any job you do. Okay, let's solve this here. We just want to leave N on its own. Let's move everything around till N is on its own. 29.25 N. We'll leave that where it is for the moment. 1043.25 minus 780. A lot of students might have done this first, by the way. They could have got this minus this and then just worked out what N is, but they still would have had to figure this number out. Anyway, what's that come out as? That comes out as 263.25. Next, if we divide both sides by 29.25, we're left with just n there, 29.25. N is equal to 9. So she worked 9 extra hours. Okay, the last part of this last question, it tells a story, and honestly, they always tell you a story. They want to turn things into English, but really, all that matters in this is the maths. The story is something about a shop that repairs shoes, and they have an equation here to figure out how much they're going to charge you. That's what this big C is, how much they're going to charge you. And what they do is they take 20 and they multiply it by how many hours they're going to work. That's what H is. They then take some number X, this is the difficulty number. Depending on how difficult the work is, they change this number. And they multiply that by how many hours. And then they divide by this discount number. And they tell us this number is always bigger than 1. Because a number bigger than 1, when we divide by a number bigger than 1, it makes things smaller. That's why it's a discount. It's a bit of a convoluted story. Really, they've given you this equation and now they're going to ask you to put things in and rearrange things and figure stuff out. Part 1 is they've told you that it takes 3 hours. That's H. H is equal to 3. Let me just write that down. H is equal to 3. They've told you that the extra hourly charge, the X, is 3.5. X is equal 3.5. And then D is equal 1.1. I guess you could see this maybe being useful if you did a job like a shoe repair. You could make a formula just so you didn't have to figure out the price every time people come in and ask you something, and you might say, right, that's a difficult repair job. That's going to take me about 4 hours. And then you might say to yourself, oh, I'm going to need extra tools for this one, so I'm going to charge an extra difficulty rate. And then maybe they negotiate with you. So you might keep this as a 1, or you might increase this number to, look, I'll give them a little discount. We'll give them a 1.1 discount. So I could see some use to this, but really, let's just do the maths. What is C? C is equal to 20 multiplied by 3 plus X, which is 3.5, multiplied by H, which again is 3, all divided by 1.1. You can put this all in your calculator right now if you're careful, but let me just do it by part. 20 times 3 is 60, 3 times 3.5 is 10.5, divided by 1.1, that's 70.5 divided by 1.1, and I would have to put that in the calculator. That comes out at 64, this is euro, because it's how much they're charging them, €64.09. As always, they just ask the question again with some different numbers. Next, they want you to find out what X is, but they tell you all the other numbers. They tell you the charge. The big C here is 76. They tell you H is equal to 4, and they tell you the discount rate is equal to 1.2. So we just fill it out again. 76 is equal to 20 times 4 plus X times 4 divided by 1.2. We're just rearranging an equation here. I'll do it slowly for you. Well, first you could clean it up. Let me save myself writing out a whole line. 4 times 20 is 80. I guess X times 4, we'd usually just write that as 4X. So I haven't changed much there. How do I clean this up? I want X on its own. Some students try and move X around then. The problem is 1.2 on the bottom here. Multiply and divide they're horrible. They get into everything. So get rid of it first. 1.2, it's dividing this side, so I'll multiply the other side. So that's 1.2 times 76 is equal to 80 plus 4x. One time, have I worked that out? I have, yeah, that's 91.2. Let's take 80 from both sides. Take 80 away. So it disappears this side, it appears as minus the other side. It's equal to 4x. That is, I guess 11.2 is equal to 4x. Divide both sides by 4. That's x is equal to 2.8. That's the answer to part 2. The very last part is just a couple of words they want. In the formula above, this one here, D is bigger than 1. What would the impact of D being less than 1? What would it mean to this equation? I think I already said this in the first part. When it's bigger than 1, it would make everything smaller. It would make the charge smaller when it's bigger than 1. Because that's what dividing by a number bigger than 1 does. When it's less than 1, we divide by a number less than 1, it would make the whole number bigger. It would make the charge bigger. So maybe someone came into the shop and they were a bit rude, and this person's like, well, it's a 3-hour job, it's too difficulty, but you know what, I don't like them, so I'll put their discount level at 0.9 and just charge them a little extra. So that's what I do. If D is less than 1, just write that in English. D is less than 1, or I'd write like this: D is less than 1, C gets bigger. C gets bigger. Something like that. It doesn't really matter. Once a few words that are roughly correct, they'll take it. Okay, that's it for question 10, the last question in this whole paper. If you found any mistakes in this question, or in the whole paper in fact, let me know in the comments. If you could do me the favour of telling me where in the question. These are long questions, and sometimes people ask me questions 3-4 years later. So if you could tell me where in the video and tell me a lot about your question, not just one line, that'd help me out a lot. Thanks for watching and have a great day.